You know, Lady Diana wasn't just a princess. She was so much more than that. People saw her as this perfect figure, the epitome of grace and kindness, a fairy tale princess. But when you really dig deeper, you realize there was a whole different story behind those smiling photos. Diana's journey wasn't just about her fame or the royal title. It was a story of heartache, loneliness, and resilience, all wrapped up in the most public way imaginable. Diana was born into privilege, yes. She came from an aristocratic family, and her story seemed set in stone. But even then, you could tell that Diana had a different kind of spirit. She wasn't just going to be a product of her family's wealth or name. She had a bigger heart than that. And when she met Prince Charles, the world watched as their love story unfolded like a fairy tale. It seemed perfect, didn't it? She was young, beautiful, and ready to take on the world. And the world was ready to love her. But here's the thing, behind all those smiles, Diana's life was full of challenges that no one really knew about. No one knew the loneliness she faced, the doubts that crept into her mind, or the pressure of living up to the image of a perfect princess. Because as much as the public adored her, Diana was struggling. Her marriage to Prince Charles, which the world thought was so ideal, was anything but. She was isolated. There were betrayals. There were moments when she questioned everything she thought she knew about herself. Diana came into the royal spotlight at a very young age, and as a result, her every move was scrutinized. She was thrust into a life that was already full of expectations she had no control over. No one could understand what it was like to have a life that was both a fairy tale and a nightmare. She was admired and adored by millions, but she was also deeply misunderstood. Her marriage to Charles seemed like the perfect union at first, but behind closed doors, things were unraveling. She was expected to be perfect, but perfection isn't something anyone can hold up for long, especially not when you're fighting battles no one else can see. And still, she pushed through it all. In the public eye, Diana always appeared composed. But those of us who watched her closely, those who saw her beyond the cameras, could see it. Her tears. Her pain. Her battles with her own self-worth. She was struggling to maintain her identity, to find peace, and to keep a smile on her face, all while living a life that felt like it was constantly under a microscope. Behind every appearance, there was a woman trying to figure out how to balance the weight of the world on her shoulders. Diana was a real person, and she faced real struggles. But what made her stand out was the way she kept going, despite the heartache, despite the challenges. It was her resilience that shone through, even when everything around her seemed to be crumbling. But here's the other side of it, the one that not enough people talked about, Diana's heart. The love she had for others. She was a woman who took on more than anyone should have to, but she did it because she truly cared. She showed us that being a princess wasn't just about the glamorous gowns or attending royal events. No, it was about helping others, it was about being human, it was about making a real difference in people's lives. She gave a voice to the voiceless, the sick, the homeless, the forgotten. She didn't just wear a crown, she wore compassion. One of the most powerful aspects of Diana's legacy was her commitment to causes that were often overlooked by others in her position. Her work with AIDS patients, the homeless, and landmine victims showed the world that being in a position of power meant having a responsibility to help. She didn't just stand on the sidelines, she jumped in with both feet. She used her platform to shine a light on issues that others turned a blind eye to. She didn't have to do it, she chose to. Diana understood what it meant to be human, and that was reflected in the way she treated others. She didn't care about appearances, she cared about people. Diana found her strength through her children. William and Harry were her reason to wake up every day, her reason to fight through the pain. She loved them with everything she had. She gave them everything she couldn't give herself. Even though she was struggling with her marriage, with her sense of self, Diana was determined to be the best mother she could be. She wanted them to have everything she didn't, and above all, she wanted them to have love, unshaken love. Her love for William and Harry was truly the light of her life. She always put their needs before her own, even when she was going through personal turmoil. Despite the challenges she faced with her own marriage, she never allowed them to see her pain. She did everything in her power to give them a happy, stable home. She was their protector, their guiding force, their rock. But even with that strength, Diana couldn't shield herself from the heartbreaks of life. She faced immense pressure, both from her marriage and from the public's constant scrutiny. Her heart was constantly being torn between trying to keep up the royal image, to be the perfect princess the world thought she was, and to simply be herself. And sometimes, being yourself means making hard choices, facing painful realities, and accepting that things might not turn out how you wanted them to. In the end, Diana made the hardest decision of her life. She chose to leave her marriage, to separate from Prince Charles. The world watched as she made this choice. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary for her own peace of mind. Sometimes, stepping away from something that isn't working isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of strength. Diana's decision to leave was an act of self-preservation, of realizing that she deserved more than the life she was leading. And then, there was the scandal that seemed to follow her everywhere. People were always watching, waiting for her to fail. And she did fail sometimes. But we need to understand, she was just a human, a woman who made mistakes. Yes, she was a public figure, but she was also Diana, a woman who wanted the same things we all do: love, acceptance, peace. We saw her go through heartbreak, emotional pain, and betrayal, but we also saw her rise through it all. She was resilient. And more than that, she was real. Her marriage fell apart. The world watched as she and Charles separated. They were no longer the couple everyone thought would last forever. But even through the bitterness, even through the sadness, Diana kept her head high. She found a new purpose in her charity work. She poured her heart into helping others, fighting for the causes she truly believed in. And it wasn't just a public appearance. Diana cared deeply. It wasn't for the cameras, it was because she truly wanted to make the world a better place. Diana's love for others transcended her royal title. She didn't care about being seen as the perfect princess. She cared about the people who needed her. That's what made her so relatable. It's what made her real. It's what made people love her, not just because she was royalty, but because she had the courage to be human, to show her vulnerability, to cry, to care, to love. But sadly, even the strongest among us can't always escape the harsh realities of life. In 1997, Diana's life was tragically cut short in a car accident that shocked the world. The outpouring of grief was almost unbearable. People who had never met her, who only saw her through the TV screen, felt like they had lost someone close. And in a way, they had. Diana was a symbol of hope, of kindness, of strength, and her sudden passing left a hole in the hearts of millions. Her death was a wake-up call for all of us. It showed us just how much we had taken her presence for granted. Diana's absence felt like the end of an era. But even though she's gone, the love people had for her didn't fade. In fact, it grew. Her legacy lives on in the ways she impacted the world, in the causes she championed, and in the children she raised. William and Harry continue to carry her spirit forward, working toward the same goals that Diana cared so much about: mental health awareness, charity work, and a better, kinder world. Today, we look back on her life with both sorrow and admiration. Diana was a woman who gave everything to the world, who shared her love, her pain, her struggles, and her joy. She didn't have it easy, but she made it through with grace, and she left behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. Diana's life wasn't just about what we saw on the outside. It was about the woman behind the crown, the mother behind the princess. It was about her journey, her struggles, and how, despite everything, she still managed to rise above it all. She was a true force of nature, a woman who wore her heart on her sleeve and gave the world something more valuable than any royal title could ever offer: her authentic self. This story is for inspirational purposes only.